Have you ever wondered how life would be if you had twins? Double the feedings, double the tantrums, double the exhaustion. Today we have a special guest who's sharing her story on how life is like being a mom to twins. So grab your drinks, pop in those earphones, especially if you have little ears around, and let's dive right into episode 69.
Cheers!
All right, today we have Danielle. Let's welcome Danielle.
Hello.
Let's just dive in. So tell us your story.
I have 3 boys. So I have an 8-year-old, and then I have twin boys, well, identical twin boys that are almost 4. They'll be 4 in September. So my husband and I, we've been together it'll be 10 years marriage in November. So him and I have been, I am in a house full of boys. So that's my household. I have a dog that's a boy as well.
Boy life.
Yeah. Boy
And
mom.
do twins run in your family, or like yours or your husband's?
So apparently it does now that we found out. We always thought it was like distant family, so not directly ours. But so my mom's first cousins, like they had twins, and then my husband's side, apparently his aunt on his mom's side had twin girls. But we didn't think anything of it. Filipino family, we have a ton of cousins, relatives, and so we didn't think it would happen to us. I was like, oh yeah, it'll be, so and so. I have a lot of girl cousins too, and I'm like, oh, it'll happen to them, and then it happened to me instead. So
Oh, is it true? Like it skips generations? Like I've heard that before.
I know fraternal, at least when I found out I was pregnant with twins, I found out that fraternals are more skipping levels, but they haven't identified how identical twins happen. I think it just happens based on the sperm and the egg. So
Because I know a
yeah,
set of guy twins, and one of the twins had twins himself.
Oh my God.
2 more boy twins, and they're identical too. So it's pretty, yeah, that's pretty trippy.
yeah.
When you guys found out, what was your reaction?
So the funny thing is, because it was my second pregnancy, not knowing that I had twins, I told my husband, it's going to be like the first pregnancy. You don't have to go. I'm going to go, by myself. And then he asked me like, well, what time is your appointment? I said 11:30. And he said, perfect. That's my lunchtime. I'll just go with you. And my appointment was close to his work. And so he went, and then they were, doing the normal check-in, and then all of a sudden the doctor said, oh, here's one baby. And I said, okay. And then I'm just like waiting, and she's like, and here's the other one. And I said, what? I said, well, I was like, what do you mean? I go, no, you moved the wand too quickly. That's the same baby. She's like, no, honey, like here's one right here, and here's the other one. And then I didn't listen to her afterwards.
Everything went blank.
Yeah. I think I was like in shock. My husband said he felt an outer body experience, like he was watching us.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so afterwards, like we set up all the other appointments, and then that was it. When I left the office, I was just bawling. I was crying. I couldn't stop crying just because I was so scared or freaked out. Like, what are we gonna do with 3 kids? We're gonna be outnumbered. We live in the Bay Area. It's so expensive already. So I cried for a whole week. Every time I would look at the picture, the sonogram, I cried. Yeah, just
so you guys were only planning on having 2 kids and being done?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yes.
And how old was your first when you found out you were pregnant with twins?
He was 3.5 or almost 4.
So he's still little.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. And how was the pregnancy like compared to your first pregnancy?
So the first pregnancy, I already had some health issues, but it was more towards the third trimester. So I think that's also why we took a while to find, to see if I want to have another child. But throughout my twin pregnancy, it was actually very hard. I went on bed rest like about 25 weeks, 26 weeks, only because the type of twins that I have, they were identical. So they were sharing a placenta, but there was like a membrane. I forgot what it's called, but it's a membrane that's splitting them up. So they were only getting food from one source, and so they were afraid to have twin to twin transfusion, meaning they're afraid that one twin might get more nutrients than the other. So because of that, it's already a high risk pregnancy. Then plus I have history of my family and myself, high blood pressure. So that was taken in consideration. So I had doctor's appointments like 3 times every single week and I think until I had to see my OB, I had to see a specialist, I had to get blood drawn at least twice a week. They had to collect my urine just to see if there's any protein that is going in there for any signs of preeclampsia. And then 28 weeks, we had a scare. I was in a lot of pain. And then I noticed that my eyes were turning yellow. So they ended up, and they just took the blood drawn and everything was fine. And so the doctor was like, oh, let's do another blood drawn. And they noticed that my liver enzymes was skyrocketed. And that's why I was turning yellow. And so they had me go into the hospital. I thought I was going to have to deliver the twins at 28 weeks. Yeah, it was a stressful 3 days. They couldn't figure out why my liver just kept going up. And then so the nurses like in the hospital, they were so kind and like they try to do everything that they can to help me stay pregnant and not, give birth. But we had to like prepare because we didn't know what was going to happen. So the funny thing is during that time, we met so many twins, like a nurse was a twin or they had twins. So it was kind of like, oh my God. And so
like when you get that car that you never see on the road. And then once you get it, you see it everywhere. Yeah.
That's it.
So,
yep. So
when you mentioned like since they shared the same placenta and they were afraid of them taking more food from the other, how did they control that or keep track of that? Because what if one twin was getting more nutrients? How can you make sure that the other one's getting nutrients when you can't really get in there,
Yeah, so that's why I think I had multiple appointments because they had to measure each baby. So all my doctor's appointment were like 2 hours long because they had to focus on one baby, then they had to focus on the liquid around the baby and see, if they're measuring about the same. And luckily, I don't know what they would have done if one baby was getting more. I was just lucky enough that they were measuring about the same throughout, my pregnancy. I'm sure they would have done more procedures if that was the case, but they wanted that to be prevented. So I think that's why I had multiple appointments just for that. Yeah.
You don't even think, and that's just the start of it. You know what I mean?
Like
you don't even
the rest of your life.
Yeah, you don't even think that like it's that crazy in the beginning. You think like, oh, I'm gonna have twins like,
and that's
cool. Let's have these babies. Not like how they have to really keep an eye on you the whole time.
And there are cases where have you seen like people, and I don't know if they're identical, but I've seen cases where people will have twins and one will come out bigger than the other. And they say that's because this one was getting more nutrients than that one. So it happens, for sure.
And do you have any tips for registering for twins for like a baby shower?
Yeah, so, we learned from the first pregnancy. We did register a lot of the things that we needed and then a lot of the things that we wanted. So what I do a lot when I can't sleep at night and during pregnancy, our sleeping pattern is already messed up, is I'm constantly researching. So I looked up, I used to follow It's Judy Time. I don't know. She's a a YouTuber that she blogs her family 24/7, and she had twins too. So I watched her videos. I did a lot of research on like what she used, what she didn't use. Other YouTubers, I follow Twin University. They're called Twin University, and so they have a list of recommendations of what you might need or what you don't need. You come to realize when the twins are here, you kind of realize what you really needed and you really don't. What you really need is a lot of blankets, a lot of definitely clothes, because they're constantly wetting themselves or like spitting up, so you're just constantly changing. So I feel like the basics, you just need to double them. So
yeah. And then, so you were going through all of this monitoring and stuff, and you had a baby too. I mean, he was 3 at the time, right? So that's a lot.
And that's a rough age.
That
That is so hard.
They need a lot of attention at that age. Were you guys hoping for a girl since you guys already had your boy? Were you hoping that the next one you were going to have a girl, or were you open to the idea of having a boy?
I was hoping, well, I didn't know they were identical twins yet. So I was hoping at least one would be a girl.
Yeah.
And my son at the time, I would ask him like, oh, what do you want? Do you want a boy? You want a brother or a sister? And he was set on having a brother. Like that you couldn't. And so I'm just glad we had what he wanted. I don't know what we'd have done. We bought a bunch of books explaining like what siblings are, or, you know, oh, you're going to have a baby brother. So he loves books. So that was our big communication, or how to transition him. And then also family, like if it weren't for both sides of our family, I don't know what we'd have done. Because if I had constant appointments, we would just drop him off at my in-laws after school, or he would just stay there until dinner time so we can do what we needed to do. So that was a big help.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So how was your delivery?
It was a
Good
planned
stuff.
It was already a planned C-section, just because of my previous birth experience with my first pregnancy. So I knew it was going to be a C-section. It's just a matter of when. My OB told me that usually moms who have twins, regardless of what kind, they don't usually pass 36, 37 weeks, just because it's too much for the mom and there's not a lot of room already. So that was like the full term was like 36, 37, you're already full term. Because after the 28 weeks, I had a scare, I was able to keep them in for another 3 more weeks. So I gave birth when they were 37 weeks. So it was a C-section. It was actually an emergency C-section. I was in a lot of pain. The liver, again, wasn't cooperating. And so my doctor was like, you know, just based on your health and the baby's health, let's just get the babies out. You know, they'll be in the NICU, but they'll be monitored and they'll be able to, you know, develop better if they're being watched or taken care of. So that's what happened. So I was 31 weeks when they were born. So.
Oh, okay.
Wow. So they're here now. How was newborn life?
It was a zombie. It was survival mode, like literally. You know, working from home, you don't know what day it is. It's the same. It was short days, long nights. I would get anxious when it's like 6:00 p.m. because I knew they're gonna wake up or they're gonna not go to sleep. So my husband, he helped me a lot because he knew that I wasn't getting any rest, because I was either pumping or I was feeding or I was trying to help with the older one. So I wasn't getting a lot of rest. And also postpartum kind of came over me after the boys were in the NICU for 6 weeks, I think. And then, so I was dealing with a lot myself.
And you were still healing from the C-section too, right? On top of everything else.
Yeah, so I was healing with the C-section. So my husband, what worked with my firstborn, we had to separate each other. So I had to sleep in the room by myself, and then my husband and our oldest slept in a separate room because I would wake up for every little thing and I would not get any rest. So that's what we did with the twins. So we either myself or my husband would stay in a room first so the other one can go to sleep, and then we basically just stay with the twins. And then eventually my husband, bless his soul, he was able to, because I wasn't getting any rest, he was like, you know what, I'm gonna take the twins and we're gonna sleep in the living room. So we'll all sleep on the floor. So if I need anything, everything was there. So he did that for months, and then of course family came and helped too. So it was literally like a blur.
You mentioned that the babies were in the NICU for 6 weeks. Why was that? Was that because they were born early, or is this a normal thing for all twins, or?
Yeah, so if they were born earlier than expected, so they would be in the NICU, and then depending on how they're developing or how they're healing from being out early determines how long they stay. So my twins were in the NICU for 6 weeks. One, Alexander, the baby A, he was able to come home maybe like 3 days before. Really? So we got to practice with one baby. And then Zachary, the baby B, we picked him up a few days later. So, but yeah, it was terrifying to bring them home, because it was terrifying already to be in the NICU, because there's a lot of beeping noise, it's scary. But the nurses there they're different. They're like a different breed of nurses. They really care for the babies, and they gave us a lot of support and comfort. When I would pump at 2:00 in the morning, I would call and talk to the nurse just to kind of get an update every single night. So they knew I was gonna call just to see if they're doing okay. But yeah.
Now, were the babies, I probably already know the answer, were they on the same feeding and sleeping schedule?
Oh, they
were.
So
that's good.
I know. The NICU did all of that. Yeah. So.
Oh, really?
Oh, the NICU.
Yeah. So they were very helpful. They told us like, oh, when we're feeding one, we'll wake up the other one just so they're kind of in the same. Mm-hmm. Right. So we got all the information, like how they took care of them, so we can do it from home, because I feel like they said if you do it separately, you're not going to get any sleep, because you're feeding one baby, you put them down, then you go to sleep, but then you wake up because the other baby waking up now. So you might as well just feed them like one right after another, so that once they're both asleep, then you can like rest yourself. So
try to rest.
Yeah, or try to.
And did you breastfeed?
So I did breastfeed. I mostly pumped because they were so small they couldn't latch. But for the most part, one of them was actually a lot more easier to breastfeed than the other. But for the most part, I did breastfeed, and then we supplemented with formula too, just to kind of keep them full.
Breastfeed them like at the exact same time, where you're doing like a double hold?
I got you.
I wanted to try. I never tried it, and that's one thing I do regret, is because I'm so focused on like one boob that I wouldn't be able to do both. They do have pillows that can support that. Yeah, so I've never tried it, but I should.
And then you're feeding on one side, the other side starts leaking. You might as well.
Don't wait that liquid gold.
But can you imagine, as it is like with a newborn, you're already so scared about their little bodies, and to have two on each side, I can't imagine.
I already commend mothers as it is, but twin mothers is a whole nother situation. Like, oh my God.
You already mentioned a little bit with our next question is, did dad help? You already kind of told us he was a big help. Can you elaborate on that more?
Yeah, he was definitely a very, very big help. He still helps now. He's actually entertaining them right now as we
So
speak.
dad.
Yeah, but he
in
knew how.
in what ways can dads help, especially if you're breastfeeding but you did pump, so that's good because then he could help feed with the bottle. What other ways can dads help with twins?
To really listen to their wife or their, the mom, only because like there's so much going on with their bodies, like healing, breastfeeding, or even mentally, because they're so exhausted, to really like pay attention. When they say they're tired, like they really are tired. Otherwise they would have done it themselves, because we try to do what's best for our kids. So to really listen, and sometimes, and my husband, he's done this too, where sometimes it might not be a big deal for him, but it's really a big deal for us. Like he learned that, so he's like, you're upset because of that, and so
Like,
don't say that.
Just
Just listen, what they need, and really just do what you have to do, and to support, that's what really helped a lot. So.
And how did you manage once dad went back to work?
I had family stay with me for a few weeks. My mom stayed for like a week and a half, and then I had my grandma stay with me for a little bit. I know she couldn't do a lot, but she could have at least hold one while I was feeding the other one. So, and then when I had to go back to work, we slowly transitioned them to my in-laws, because they were both retired. And then my husband's schedule is extremely flexible, so he was able to come home during lunchtime, and then as soon as I was done with work, I went directly to my in-laws and kind of helped whatever that needed to be done. So it really does take a village, whether you have one kid or you have more than one. So where I tell my in-laws all the time, like, I'm so grateful for you guys, because I don't know what we would have done, to be honest. So
you're
and
so
to
lucky
pay
to
for
have
like daycare for two.
Yes.
For two.
Yes.
Exactly. I hope they give discounted rates though for two, please.
Yeah, right. That's double the work for them. They're like, get out of here, discount.
I checked. So my work has a daycare, like they have a contract, and so I asked that, and I said, oh, I have twins. Like, is there like a discounted one? And they said no.
I believe it's not.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. I'd be like, actually, you have twins? You have
a double, like, twins is more.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What would you do when you were outnumbered and both of the babies would cry? Would you start crying too?
I did.
Yeah, like when your husband was gone and you didn't have anybody to help you.
Yeah, no, I would. There has been plenty of times when that happened. I think I would try to figure out why were they crying? Like, did they had a dirty diaper? Were they hungry? The dirty diaper one, I would focus on them first, only because of like rashes and all of that. So I would let the other baby cry, even though it would break my heart. But as soon as I finished changing one, I would put them in like a rocker, so it kind of felt like they were being held. And then I would take care of the other one. So we used a lot of the Mamaroo, or those rockers that kind of just like swings them a little bit, so they felt like they were being held.
You guys have two like swings and stuff, like two of those kind of things?
Do they make
but
ones or no?
I don't know.
We use I don't know. The Mamaroo one, that's what we use.
You had two Mamaroos? Those are expensive.
Right? I would have had to share with you. Okay, you have 10 minutes and you have 10 minutes.
Did you ever wear them? Like, can you wear twins at the same
one in the front and one in the back?
Yeah, in the baby carrier.
Yeah, there was, my husband thought it was so weird that there was one that you could have one in the front and then one in the back.
Oh, there really
But
is.
I think there was one where you had both of them. But what is it, the Moby wrap? I think we used that in the beginning, but I don't think they liked it because they were so squish. So my husband and I would have our old one from our first pregnancy, and then we bought one new one, so at least we had one each, or one would be in the stroller and then one would be on us. So
Sheesh. Do you have any tips for our twin mom listeners who have newborn that you can give them?
yes, I did write that down. So honestly, like every mom, like it's gonna be hard. I don't want to really sugarcoat it. It does get better because they end up sleeping a little bit longer. Once they are sleeping longer, it does get easier. The first 5 or 6 months is gonna be very hard, but know that it's gonna end. Um, and then also really listen to your body, because I didn't know I had postpartum until way later. And so if you can't, you need to take care of yourself first. Yes, they're dependent on you, but if you're not good, then you won't be able to take care of, the baby. So if friends or family are asking, like, do you need help? Like, yes,
Help.
don't say no. Yeah, so
Yeah.
whether it's even just for an hour, like, can you just hold them while I take an hour nap? Or whatever it is. Don't think that you can't ask for help. Definitely ask. Routine is the lifesaver. So have a routine down.
I love
Because
routine.
because they become very predictable, and so you kind of know what's going to happen, and they're until this day they have a routine down, so it helps a lot. So those are my advice. It's going to be hard, but it's going to get better, and seeing them grow and how they are and how they develop, like, it's going to be worth it. So
Did you put them in the same crib when they would sleep?
we had a bassinet. It was one big bassinet, and it had a divide in the middle. So
Mhm.
they would sleep on one side, and then the other would sleep on the other. But then eventually we ended up co-sleeping, because that's what worked well with us,
Mhm.
for my mental state, and also for them knowing that we were close by. So we did a lot of that too.
For how long? For the whole first year, or?
Yeah, actually, it till this day too. All of us are in one
And they're
full
3, right?
big bed.
Really? Oh my
Well,
goodness.
You have a
my
king
old
bed.
we have a king bed, so us four, and then my oldest has his own bed in like on the side. So, but
Wow.
yeah.
I feel like that brings up so many other kind of questions.
That's not this
Yeah, but that's
episode.
not this episode. Because I've seen where they have twins in the same cradle and in the
Yes.
same
Well, because
crib.
like in the
Especially in the
womb,
womb,
they're so
together.
they're close to, they're used to touching each other, so it's like comforting for them.
Yeah.
But I also
And they do
heard
sleep next to each other now.
I have a friend who has twins, and she was saying she did the whole twin sleeping twin all the time. And she said now one of her twins is so dependent on her sister that she can't do anything without her. So I guess it could be a reversal effect. Like,
Interesting.
Oh yeah.
Because they're used to that
yes,
body
so she can't do
heat and all
anything
that.
without her.
I know you mentioned that you had postpartum, and just to touch on that a little bit, what were some of your signs that you had postpartum?
I would just cry for anything and everything. When I would be cleaning when I would be cleaning the babies, I remember one time I was so upset because I had to change one of the twins like 4 times, because every time I would lift him up, he would spit up, and so then I would have to change him, and then I would lift him up again, and so I would try to burp him, again before changing. But at that time, I think they also had acid reflux, and so obviously as newborns they can't really control it. But I was so upset because I had to change one of the twins 4 times that I couldn't stop crying. Like I was uncontrollably just frustrated and so upset. And then when I would take them to their pediatric for check-in, they did give us a survey, kind of like, how's the mom feeling? And then I would just answer it truthfully. And I didn't realize, like, she was like, oh, like you have a lot that are, I guess, signs and symptoms of postpartum. And so you need to talk to your OB. And so I talked to my OB and I just couldn't stop crying. I couldn't have that control. So the doctor, my OB just prescribed me a low dose of Zoloft to kind of cut the edge a little bit, which I was very, very hesitant, only because of the stigma and, you know, being on antidepressants. Like I've never been on that before. And so she's like, it's a very low dose. It's not even the required, you know, typical. She's like, just see it, how it works. And then once you're in more of a routine and they're getting more rest, then we can slowly, you know, stop prescribing you. So I was on it for a good year until I finally felt comfortable to kind of wean off of it. And so, but yeah, I definitely needed that. So
did it help? Did you feel like it helped you?
It helped a lot. Yeah. So.
And how did you juggle the twins and like household duties, you know?
We did it.
Like, forget those household duties. It's going to be the twins or the dishes.
I love it because it's realistic, you know?
Yeah. So we only washed what we needed. So bottles, I mean, we use dishes and of course, like that would be washed. Laundry would be, you know, what we needed. But as far as like cleaning, my in-laws were actually very nice. When I was in the hospital, they helped kind of clean our house. So when we came home, it was a nice cleaned house, but that didn't last long with all the baby stuff and my husband sleeping in the living room. We couldn't do it on the weekends. We didn't want to do anything because you're just tired from work. And so.
And how long would you say that lasted, like for the first 6 months or the first year?
I would say the first year. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that survival mode is for real.
Yeah.
And now with your twins, do they have similar personalities or are they pretty different?
They're actually really different. They like a lot of similarity things. They like certain, you know, dinosaurs, Blippi, like they like a lot of common things, but individually they're so different. Alexander, he is very particular with things. He likes structured. He can be very possessive on certain toys. Like he just assumes it's his. Whereas Zachary, he's very aloof, I guess, if you want to say. He likes to antagonize Alexander just for fun.
Okay.
Yeah, so Zachary, he's more of like the physical. He's very adventurous when it comes to physical things. He'll like to climb, jump off of things. Alexander, he's very more reserved. If he wants to try something new, it's new food that he loves to eat. So he's our foodie. Whereas Zachary, he has to observe like his brothers first, or he has to smell it before he tries something new. But the funny thing is with that, they both learn from each other. So that's the funny part. Alexander is very, he talked a lot more than Zachary. But Zachary, he's better at like motor skills. And so they kind of like teach each other.
When did you start seeing like the differences in their personalities? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, was it 6 months or like a year when they started kind of acting or having like sprouting into their own individualness?
I want to say when they turned 1, we saw a lot of a big difference. Zachary was already trying to climb, or actually, no, I take that back. He was 4 months old when he learned how to roll, Zachary. So he was a lot more physically
Advanced.
developing a lot faster than Alexander. And then Alexander, he developed more speech a lot quicker. And so, but yeah, we noticed Zachary first with the 4 months, and then about a year, we start to notice a lot more where we saw him, Zachary, climbing on couches and throwing stuff. Whereas, Alexander, he can sit and just play with whatever toys he had in front of him. So we noticed that as well.
Because you had two kids to compare, like, did you ever compare that and get worried? Like, oh, this one's developing faster and this one's not. Like, did that ever worry you? And you'd have to like.
Yes. So Zachary, because he only said a few words, and whereas Alexander, he was saying multiple words, I was getting worried. And because they were premature, the doctor was already like had plans for them for like development appointments to see who can do what. I think they do that on their 2-year or a little bit before 2 years old, where they evaluate like what they can do. Can they jump? Can they, put a coin into a piggy bank? Like little specific things like that. And so I was terrified. But
then,
they were able to both
so the
pass,
one that spoke later was the one who actually was more advanced physically, right? Because you said he was walking and jumping, and that's interesting. It's kind of
because
interesting.
like naturally moms, I think, compare with
yes
moms and other kids. So I was like, if you have them next to each other, are you doing
right
it?
There.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like they would tag team you for like tantrums in their toddler years, like their terrible 2 stages? Would they ever have tantrums at the same time? Like, you know how like kids will see other people do it and they're feed off of it. Yeah, like, hey, this is a good time to mess shit up.
I hope they don't, but they have it. So one day it would be, let's say Alexander, and then the next day would be Zachary. And they get so fascinated with each other. When someone's upset, like they like stare at them, like, why are you like, they're trying to figure out what is going on. So they do that with each other and to my oldest son too. They just like stare and try to figure out like, why is this person crying or why is this person upset? So they, knock on wood, they don't, but it's usually one or the other, but not at the same time, thank goodness.
So they're still pretty young. Do you encourage their individuality, and do you like nurture that, or do you kind of like dress them the same and like lump them together?
Yeah, so we actually encourage individuality only because those times where I was at the hospital, I would meet all the twins, or, they would be a twin, and I would ask them for advice. I'm like, well, what's one thing that you didn't like about being a twin? And a lot of them said, oh, I hate being categorized as the twins, or I hated being like, oh, well, where are the twins, instead of like, where is so-and-so individuality? So that kind of changed our plan, because when we were trying to figure out names, we were thinking of the same letter. Or we were thinking, and so that's why we picked totally opposite, Alexander and Zachary, which was a last minute thing. And so, but because of all of the advices that we got from different twins, that's what we try to encourage, individuality. The only time that I do dress them the same is if we have like if it's Mother's Day or Father's Day, but I would also include the older brother too, so it wasn't just
they're all dressed the same.
Yeah. So
with that said, do you feel like your older son ever feels left out because like the twins have their connection, and does he ever feel left out?
Sometimes I would think that way, because he's so much older and bigger than them, but he is so sweet. He always thinks about his brothers. Like, there's never been a time where he would get jealous of them. And so I think the only time he would get upset is if we didn't include them. So if we would be like, oh, we just want to take you out, for the day, and we'll leave your brothers, with grandma, he'd be like, well, why? Like, why can't you just bring them along? So thank goodness he wasn't jealous. Yeah. So he always he is always thinking of his brothers all the time. Yeah. So
Oh,
That's cool.
sweet.
yeah.
So does it tend to get easier as they get a little bit older? And at around what age do you feel like it does get easier?
I would say once they start sleeping, so it started to get easier when they were maybe 8 months or almost a year because they were sleeping so much longer. Because you just need that rest. So that's how it got easier. And then when we started to get the flow or our routine down, that's when it would get a lot easier. So we have a strict routine, nap time, time for bed at night, we all get ready at the same time. So it's kind of like we're all doing it together, but routine is your best friend.
Yes.
Do you feel like you still experience like any harder days? Because you can compare life before your twins, in the same age area with your first one that was a single child. Do you still experience like those kind of hardships?
Yeah, definitely. There's times where one of them would just be having a hard week, where they would just throw a tantrum every single day, or they wouldn't stop hitting their brother. And, the first reaction is, stop doing that. And so then it doesn't help when you're yelling too. So we do have hardship on certain like situation, and I'm constantly researching. That's all I do at night. I watch videos. I follow accounts, mommy accounts, to see that other people are not, you're not alone. So that is what really helps a lot. Instagram has a ton of those accounts. So I follow, mom of multiples. I follow you guys. So, so I mean, if it weren't for your account or all these mommies account or parent accounts, like I don't know what I would have done, honestly. So having this community, and it really does help a lot. So because it's not perfect every single day, or my husband and I, one of us could be having a rough day from work, and so then we have to step in and be like, okay, well, you're not in the mood right now, so let me try to take care of them. So we kind of balance each other out that way as well. So
that's nice. What words of encouragement do you have for moms who are or twin moms who are going through some of those rougher patches?
You are definitely not alone. It is hard, like no one's gonna sugarcoat it. But it's gonna be worth it. So yes, you have short days, long days, but just wait a few more months. It's gonna be worth it, and they're gonna be so much fun as they get older, and you get to see how much of a difference they are, even though they may or may not look alike. So it's worth it. All the hardships, all the zombie mode, survival mode, it'll be a blur as they get older. So you probably won't even remember this. So,
Which is crazy.
but yeah, so it'll get easier. It really does. As long, once they start sleeping, then you're good.
You're
So,
golden. Well,
yeah.
thank you, Danielle. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
We appreciate you. Can you
Thank
show
you
us your
for having me.
shirt?
Yes.
Oh yeah. It says, first of all, I have twins.
I love it. Thank you.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you want to catch up on our previous episodes, visit mamasmimosas.com, where you'll get access to all of our podcast show notes, our YouTube videos, and our private Facebook group, where we chat with you about each episode topic and host live Q&As with our fave mom tribe. Can't wait to see you there.